The girl who had never seen the sea. Mira had never seen the ocean. She had lived her whole life in a small mountain village. There were pine trees everywhere. The air was cold and sharp. In winter, snow covered the rooftops. In summer, wildflowers grew along the stone path. It was a beautiful place. Mira knew that. But sometimes, in the evenings, she would sit on the front step of her house and look down at the valley below. Beyond the valley were more mountains. And beyond those mountains, she did not know. She had only heard stories. Her grandmother used to talk about the sea. It's the color of the sky, her grandmother would say, but deeper, and it moves. It never stops moving. Mira always listened carefully. She tried to imagine it, but she could not. She had never heard the sound of waves. She had never felt salt on her skin. She had never seen water that went all the way to the horizon and kept going. It felt like something from a dream. One autumn evening, Mira was sweeping the path outside her door. The sun was going down. The sky was turning pink and orange. She heard something, a soft, low sound like wind, but not exactly wind. She stopped sweeping. There, on the ground near the gate, was a shell. It was small and pale blue. She had never seen anything like it before. It was smooth and curved, like a tiny sleeping ear. She picked it up carefully. It was warm in her hands. That surprised her. She looked around. The path was empty. The neighbors' lights were already on. There was no one there. She brought the shell inside. That night, Mira sat by the fire. She turned the shell over in her fingers. She looked at it for a long time. Then, slowly, she brought it close to her ear. She heard it, something low and white and moving, a sound she had never heard before, like breathing, like a living thing. It was the ocean. She was sure of it. She closed her eyes. She listened. The sound was soft and slow. It came in, it went out, in, out, like the chest of something sleeping. Mira felt her own breathing slow down. She felt something warm open up inside her chest. She stayed like that for a long time. That night, she dreamed she was standing on sand, real sand. It was pale and cool under her feet. She could feel each grain between her toes. She had never felt that before. But in the dream, she knew exactly what it was. She looked up. In front of her was the ocean. It was not one color. It was many. Dark blue far away. Green and pale near the shore. White where the waves broke and foamed. And it was moving, always moving. The waves came slowly. They rolled in, one after another, like quiet visitors. Each one arrived, spread out across the sand, and then pulled back with a soft, rushing sound. Myra stepped forward. The water touched her feet. It was cold. She gasped. Then she laughed. She stood there for a long time. The waves came, the waves went. The sun was warm on her shoulders. The air tasted of salt. Seabirds flew slowly above her, calling in their strange voices. She felt very small, and at the same time, she felt very free. When she woke up, the room was quiet. The fire had gone out. Gray morning light came through the curtains. Myra lay still. She did not want to move. She wanted to keep the dream close to her. She looked at the shell on the table beside her. It was still there, pale blue, smooth, real. She picked it up again and held it. Not to listen this time, just to hold. She thought about what her grandmother had said all those years ago. It moves. It never stops moving. Now she understood. Not with her head. She understood it in her body, in her chest, and her feet, and her skin. She smiled. A few days later, Myra made a decision. She packed a small bag. She put in warm clothes and bread and a jar of honey. She put in her grandmother's old map. She put in the shell wrapped in a soft cloth. She told her neighbor, old Mrs. Varga, where she was going. Mrs. Varga looked at her for a moment. Then she smiled. Your grandmother always wanted to go, she said. I'm glad you are going. Myra hugged her. Then she walked down the stone path, through the village and down into the valley. The journey took 3 days. She walked through pine forests and meadows. She crossed a wide river on an old bridge. She passed through 2 small towns. She ate her bread and honey and slept in simple guest houses. On the morning of the 3rd day, she came over a hill, and there it was, the ocean. It looked exactly like her dream, and nothing like her dream. It was bigger, much bigger. It went on and on, further than she could follow with her eyes. It was dark and blue, and silver and green, all at once. The sky above it was enormous. And the sound was everything. It filled the air, it filled her ears, it filled her whole body. Myra stood up on top of the hill for a long time. She did not move. She just looked. Then she walked down to the shore. She took off her shoes. She stepped onto the sand. It was cool and soft, just like in the dream. She walked to the edge of the water. A wave came in slowly. It touched her feet. Cold, white foam, a gentle pull. She laughed out loud. Alone on the beach, she laughed. She reached into her bag and took out a shell. She held it in both hands. Then she turned and looked out at the water. Thank you, she said quietly. She did not know who she was thanking. Maybe the shell, maybe her grandmother, maybe the sea itself. It did not matter. She stayed for 2 days. She walked along the shore every morning. She watched the light change on the water. She collected a few small stones. She ate fish at a little restaurant and talked to the woman who owned it, who had lived by the sea her whole life. Do you ever get tired of it? Mara asked. The woman laughed. Never, she said. It is always different. Myra looked out the window at the water. I understand that now. On the last evening, Myra sat on the beach and watched the sun go down over the sea. The sky turned red and orange, and then a deep, quiet purple. The waves came in slowly. Stars began to appear. She held the shell in her lap. She was not sad to be going home. The mountains were her home. She loved the pine trees and the cold air and the wildflowers in the summer. She would be happy to go back. But now she carried something new with her. She had seen the ocean. She had heard it. She had felt it. And now it was inside her, in a place words could not quite reach. She put the shell back in her bag, gently. She looked up at the stars, the same stars she could see from her front step at home. They looked the same here. That made her smile. She took a slow, deep breath. The air tasted of salt. That night, Myra slept well. And so, I hope, will you. You have been somewhere tonight, somewhere wide and moving and full of sound. Let that feeling stay with you. Now close your eyes, breathe slowly, listen, maybe somewhere far away, you can hear it too. Good night and sleep well.